our comment period, move over to our agenda setting meeting. A couple of the things that were mentioned, and really out of the gate, what I mentioned, because the money was brought up multiple times. And we actually mentioned this several months ago when we first brought this item up, or this item was brought up publicly. The money is not earmarked for anything. When keeps the soundbite is that we're paving a road with it. That is absolutely not true. For one thing, the money is not here. Council has not decided if they're going to sell this pool or not. As far as it being budgeted, any monies that are budgeted in our current budget was budgeted last year, and any budget money from next year proposed, this would not factor into it. I personally, now this would be council's decision, I am personally in favor, and I did mention this publicly before, to earmark this money for something for the community, particularly in the Parks and Recreation Department, but we are not there yet at all. So as far as money being spent, it's not, because it's not even voted on at this point. Now I will advocate for that, for council to discuss these things if indeed this vote does go in the affirmative on Tuesday. The next step would be to talk about what the next step is with the money. And I will advocate for that publicly, and that'll all be put out there forthright. But by no means is this money, or is there a grab of money to try to sell the pool in order to pave roads or to balance the budget in any way whatsoever. So I want to really put that out there. As far as the progress of the committee has met with the private pools. We had a very productive meeting. We have another meeting that is scheduled as well. We've also met with the JCC off of Rosecrest. We've met with them several times over the past several months about potentially helping out as well. And the committee is committed to, if indeed this sale would go through, the ordinance would go through, to replace the programming, replace the asset, try to do as best we can to replace what is lost, if indeed it is voted on. So those are the main things. But another meeting is going to be scheduled, and I think it is fair for the community to have more of a report prior to Tuesday's vote. And we will try to get more information for everybody before that vote happens on Tuesday.
Mayor, can I ask a question on?
Mr. Duncan.
I also mentioned months ago that I'd like to see that money kept in the parks. Is it possible to put that in part of the ordinance? I mean, I'm not really familiar.
Yeah, you can have whatever you want in the ordinance. It's totally up to council.
And council could do that before the meeting. We could do that
Before
prior
the
to
meeting
vote.
Tuesday.
Yeah, you'd have to re-advertise.
No, you could add to an ordinance.
It has to be substantial.
I mean, I don't see
Yeah, I
anything
don't
wrong
think
with
that-
doing that. I'm in favor of keeping it in the parks. I'm in favor of a new park, a new pool. And I've asked for those figures, and I did receive some that were kind of high, but.
And that could be discussed more, but to clarify your point, though, yes.
Yes.
If council decided to do something along those lines, they could decide to do that prior to Tuesday's vote. They could do it right before voting. During the motion and the second, there could be a motion to amend that ordinance. So that is a possibility before Tuesday, or even on Tuesday, actually. Anything else, Mr. Duncan?
That's all. Thank you.
Mayor, I can help a little bit with that, too,
Mr.
as
Poach,
well.
go ahead.
Thanks. The mayor and Mr. Harvey and I have been, working with folks to move through the process of discussing the aquatics program, if, for lack of a better term, across Monroeville. Didn't have a name for it, and chose that at this time, for right now. In the context of issues in terms of the surveys and information that went to the members of the Bel Air pool, it fits in the context of asking the other meetings that we've had with the individuals, the other community pools. Two simple questions in asking, what we talked about. Simple enough. We asked them, how were their organizations? What did they refer to them as? What was their status to do that? And is there any willingness to open up to other programs that Monroeville have? Those are the only two questions we asked. And we spent about 3 hours listening most of the time. And I think very cooperative, folks were really good about, explaining this is what we are, this is where we stand, we can do these things, we can't do these things as well. And just, took notes on that information to put it together. We were asked, I think Mr. Stamera asked before, about laying out that plan. That's not an unreasonable request, to do that, but it's also do some due diligence. So that is ongoing, and that's not an unfair request to do that in terms of the programs offered at Bel Air. we'll pull those together for you to do that as well. A summary of it up to this point, that's possible. It's not a problem to do it. So, well, no, actually not. So, moving forward to do that, I don't think that there's anything that's unreasonable that anyone has asked or anything anyone has said here. And also in the context of how people feel about it, I think we kind of know. We didn't have to ask a survey on things that folks need, what's important to them. What was the very first question on the survey for those that got it is, what was the single most important, and what was the value of the swim team? Off the charts for everyone as well. We understand that. Very, very clear that's in place to it, too, as we're moving forward, too. So try to summarize that. That's not unreasonable, and we'll keep working. I think that's the most important thing.
Thank you. Very good. And then a couple of questions. Mr. Williams, you brought up, that's going to be, we'll discuss that whenever we get to your, that ordinance or that, it's an ordinance or resolution?
Ordinance.
When we get to that ordinance, we'll discuss all that, so thank you. And then as far as the, Mr. Mintz, the oil and gas ordinance, correct, there has not been any action on it at this point. I think it's fair to you for me to get you some direction here in the very near future, so I'm going to do my best to get you some direction on that. So we've been occupied, certainly, with this current matter. And that's all I have right now at the start of the meeting. We do have reports at the end for council and the manager and the solicitor at the end of this meeting as well. But once again, there will be, I want to thank everyone for coming out. Really good points were made. Really good suggestions were made. We appreciate your passion over this, and it does not fall on deaf ears by any means. I mean, these are difficult decisions, and this council, we make these decisions with the best information possible and looking at every angle.
I had asked a question that wasn't answered.
We're going to move on with our meeting. I can talk to you afterwards.
I'd rather it be answered in public.
So what we're going to do is,
Response?
we're not going to do it handled this way. I'd be happy to speak with you afterwards, and I'd also be happy to speak at the council meeting during the comment period as well, but we're not going to go back and forth during a meeting from the audience. That's not how I run a meeting.
Hang on.
That's not how we're doing it.
So,
So this evening, we're going to move on, please. I'm going to respectfully ask you, please.
Mayor,
No,
I have
me
a
just-
question, sir.
You have a question, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. I thought we already have an ordinance in place for the drilling and so forth.
Well, we do have an ordinance, but I want to address what Mr. Mintz was speaking to, the ordinance that the proposed, they drafted an ordinance and they presented to Mr.
Oh.
Little, so I just wanted to get some clarification on that, and we'll do that before Tuesday.
Okay, but I thought we already had an ordinance.
We do have, yes, we do have a oil and gas ordinance. This council restricted gas development to the M2 industrial zone, and that was a move that was supported by the community. So there are protections in place, and those fall in line with Act 47 from the Pennsylvania,
Thank you.
from the Commonwealth law, so thank you.